Welcome to Concrete Block, your premier destination for in-depth analysis and discussion of the latest global events. I'm your host, Walter, and we're excited to have you join us today. As we dive into our first segment, we're taking a close look at the recent tensions between India and Pakistan. The two nations have been engaged in a war of words, with both sides exchanging heated rhetoric and accusations. But what's behind this latest escalation, and how does it impact the region? According to reports, social media has played a significant role in fueling the flames of discord. Misinformation and propaganda have spread like wildfire, further straining relations between the two countries. It's a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked information and the importance of verifying sources. We're also seeing a growing trend of governments cracking down on dissenting voices, with Pakistan's military trials for protesters being a prime example. The country's Supreme Court has ruled that these trials should continue, despite appeals from human rights groups. This raises important questions about the balance between national security and individual freedoms. Meanwhile, in neighboring Bangladesh, the government has announced a new budget aimed at boosting economic growth. Economist Fahmida Khatun argues that this presents an opportunity for the country to recalibrate its fiscal policies and lay the groundwork for sustainable development. In other news, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has announced plans to remove temporary protected status for Afghans residing in the United States. This decision has sparked concerns about the safety of these individuals, who may face significant danger if they're forced to return to Afghanistan. As we continue to monitor these developments, it's essential to approach the situation with a nuanced and balanced perspective. We'll be exploring these topics in more depth throughout the show, so stay tuned for insightful analysis and expert opinions. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into a critical and complex issue that's been unfolding in the Middle East. The situation in Gaza has taken a devastating turn, with reports indicating that nearly 500,000 people are now facing starvation due to the halted flow of humanitarian aid. To provide some context, Israel has sealed off the Gaza Strip since early March, following the collapse of a ceasefire deal with Hamas. This move has resulted in a severe shortage of food and essential supplies, leaving many Palestinians struggling to access basic necessities like bread and lentils. Humanitarian groups, including the UN World Food Programme, have exhausted their supplies, forcing them to shut down kitchens and bakeries. The Canadian government has recently weighed in on the issue, with new Foreign Minister Anita Anand accusing Israel of using food as a political tool in its Gaza operation. Anand emphasized the need for a ceasefire and a two-state solution, stating that Canada will maintain this position. It's essential to acknowledge the complexities of this conflict, with both sides presenting differing narratives. Israel denies any risk of famine, instead blaming Hamas for stealing aid meant for civilians. Meanwhile, Palestinian health officials report over 52,900 deaths since the conflict began. As we explore this story, it's crucial to approach it with sensitivity and an open mind, recognizing the human cost of this crisis. The use of food as a political tool is a highly contentious issue, with far-reaching implications for civilians caught in the crossfire. We'll continue to monitor developments in Gaza and provide updates as more information becomes available. For now, it's clear that the situation remains dire, with innocent lives hanging in the balance. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're wrapping up today's show with a fascinating story that's been making headlines around the world. As you may have heard, US President Donald Trump recently met with Syrian interim President Ahmed al-Sharaa in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and announced that the U.S. will be removing long-standing sanctions on Syria. This move has sent shockwaves throughout the international community, with many wondering what implications it may have for the war-torn country. Now, Let's take a closer look at the details. According to reports, Trump's decision to lift sanctions is seen as a major breakthrough in efforts to rebuild Syria's economy, which has been devastated by 14 years of conflict. The Syrian government has already begun to overhaul its public financial management system, including reforms to the tax system, customs, and banking. But not everyone is convinced that this is a positive development. Some critics argue that lifting sanctions will only serve to empower the current Syrian regime, which has been accused of human rights abuses and other atrocities. Others are concerned about the potential for corruption and mismanagement of funds, given the country's history of cronyism and nepotism. It's also worth noting that Trump's personal business interests have raised eyebrows in the context of this decision. The Trump Organization has significant investments in the Gulf region, including a potential deal to build a Trump Tower in Damascus. While Trump himself has denied discussing any business deals with Syrian officials, some have questioned whether his personal financial interests may be influencing his policy decisions. As always, we strive to bring you balanced and unbiased reporting here on Concrete Block. We believe it's essential to consider multiple perspectives and evaluate the evidence before forming an opinion. In this case, it's clear that the situation in Syria is complex and multifaceted, with no easy answers or solutions. So, what does the future hold for Syria? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. The international community will be watching closely as events unfold. We'll continue to bring you updates and analysis on this story as more information becomes available. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.